Wait. Hello, everyone online. Okay.
They're waving. We got 4 people so far.
Yesterday, we were exploring how we enable lay leaders. And if you, Allison, we emailed out the slides? Okay. Check out the other places. There are things that we really didn't get around to talking about. And that's just the nature. There's so much good stuff to talk about. Today is all about vocation and unlocking vocation. You've heard in my story how there was a moment in my ministry where I just about backed out of being a priest. And that was after I had seen so many churches close. When I made it my joy to go and seek out places where there was new energy and vibrancy, the byproduct of healthy churches is the springing up of vocational ministry all over the place. And again, you have to be careful what you pray for, because sometimes you just might get it. I now spend almost all of my ministry in being curious about where people are living out their vocation and what that looks like. But in order to live out your vocation, in the same way that's in our preaching, you have to figure out all the roadblocks. My goodness, there are so many different types of roadblocks that either stunt people in their spiritual growth, or they cause them to consider themselves unworthy of a ministry that God is calling them to. And so, today we'll be hearing the story of the Licentiate in Theology program, but that's just kind of an institutionalized way of saying we're starting to unlock vocational relationships, and it's happening across the country, and we're very excited about it. Okay. So the motto of the Licentiate in Theology, let me tell you the history of the Licentiate in Theology program before we start. Huron's Licentiate in Theology program originated in the First World War era, where primarily men who were coming back from service and feeling called to the church recognized 2 things. One, that the church needed them to serve in ministry as quickly as possible. And 2, that they had jobs and families and debts and responsibilities. So attending an institution like Huron University College to take a Bachelor of Divinity degree after a BA made no sense. And so at the time, theological institutions with bishops decided to put together courses that were designed to be accessible. And upon completion of a certain group of courses, the school would offer a disclaimer, a document that would say, I believe that Kyle, in taking these courses, has the foundational skill set he needs to be called to be a priest in church. And so it wasn't like we were reducing the significance of a theological education. We were making it accessible for the first time. And so if you look at the history of bishops in the Diocese of Huron, some of our early bishops, their theology degree was an LTH, which is remarkable. And as we got into the growth of the Anglican Church of Canada, of course, the 40s and 50s, growth, we started to professionalize ministry. And we thought that our priests need to be CEOs, and their academic hoods need to be a little longer. And the golden standard for ministry, instead of being a licentiate theology degree, really turned into being a 3-year Master of Divinity degree, where you attended 3 full years of formation at Huron College. And up until the 70s, you could wear your academic dress around the school and have high tea. 1971, we have the tipping point to the church where we're going from growth into decline. The average age of people entering into ministry goes from 30s to 40s, 50s, 60s. Now it is quite common for us to be ordaining someone who's 60, 70, or in some cases, 80 years old. And without them, churches would be closed. Now, you also heard yesterday we talked about the significant contributions of lay leaders of church. there is a very important role for ordered ministry in the church, and it's part of our tradition. So that's the origin of the LTH, and now it's coming back. We have the same urgency today, where bishops no longer have enough clergy to fill the vacancies. The Diocese of Huron, it's kind of depressing, but you get used to it. If you go into our website, Diocese of Huron, and you go into ministry employment, you will see at any given time, we'll have between 16 to 26 vacant congregations. And when a congregation sits vacant, the average time that they're vacant is usually around 2 years. And in that time, it's a piecemeal of whoever we can get to fill in, and God bless the lay leaders that are the lifeblood of those churches. The vacancies, bishops, pray for your bishops, because even in this diocese, where you plug one hole, and especially if you move someone from one place to plug a hole, you have the potential of leadership loss in another place. And the holes are just popping up all over the place. So the LTH is allowing a new pathway for people to explore their ministry at various stages of their life. For some, it's a dipping the toes in the water. For others, it is the affirmation of something that they've struggled to do their entire life. And for still others, it's lifelong learning. They love our faith, they love the church, and they will never stop taking courses. I started saying this, 7 years ago, when people said, "What's your job?" My job, my calling is to equip you to answer yours. And eventually the dean just said, "That sounds like a good motto to say about that." So the LTH program, our calling was to equip you to answer yours. Am I blocking anyone if I'm standing here? Yeah. I'm not used to having the screen so large. What we do in the LTH program is, you heard me say when I introduced myself the first day, that I'm a professional matchmaker. I love to connect students who want to explore their vocation with the very best passionate professors that we have available. And so what we've done is we really offer the highest quality of theological education, but we present it in a format that people can actually access. So this is courses where every single course that's offered in the program asks the question, so what? How are you going to use the systematic theology course to be a licensed lay reader in a rural parish? And if it's not applicable, we're going to change it until it becomes applicable. So we are raising up lay leaders, ministry practitioners, and in many cases, postulants for ministry in the Anglican Church. Last year, I'm so proud to say that there were more deacons ordained from our program than any other seminary across Canada. And we're going to start putting their stories up on the website, because it will be so-and-so's from Whitehorse, Yukon, so-and-so's from Calgary, so-and-so's from Moosonee, East Coast, they're all over the country. And if anyone tells you that the Anglican Church is the same anywhere, they're out to lunch. We have such beautiful diversity of culture, of tradition. There's a diversity of financial resources. And so the one thing that we all have in common is we deeply love our church. And our students are usually the people who keep showing up to everything. So we are responding to the ministry and learning needs that are being expressed to us by bishops, dioceses, and ministry leaders, especially in the places where someone can't go to a seminary and log in 3 years to take an end. We do a lot of listening. Someone asks, how do you know which courses that you're offering in your program? And it's simple. The secret of success in the LTH program is when I hear a group of students say they need a preaching course, one of the next courses in the following term will be a preaching course. And it changes every single term. There are no prerequisites. It's always responding to the needs of our student cohort, which means a lot of work for me. But it means that we've never had a course that we've canceled. Not one course didn't have a critical mass. And as you'll hear a little bit later on, you have to sign up early because they fill up quick sometimes.
How many classes have been oversubscribed?
I try not to say that. Because we are in a virtual learning environment, all of our courses are online unless we do a residential clinic, like what we're doing here. And we try to limit to about 24, 25 students. Bishop William has had courses where he's had like 74 students, and that's a real carnival, and it's tricky that way. So we do try to limit that. I won't admit how many are oversubscribed. So what we've done is we've established a network throughout the country among Anglicans of different teachers, instructors and professors, and learners across Canada. So on any given night, say you're taking a course on a Tuesday, in Ontario, it'd be from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and you'll have people from 5 different time zones across country, which is marvelous. We always, I think of Jeannie and Elsa, and they always have light in their window. We're in darkness, and they've got light. So you get to make friends across the country, and you get to hear what's different in Anglican ministry across the country, which is really fascinating. My personal goal is whenever I find any barrier that's preventing someone from accessing theological education that I know they will love, I want to get rid of the barrier. And the very first barrier that we recognized was geography. Now, I have more hair in this picture. This picture was taken in 2017. And in 2016, I realized there was a problem in my part of the Diocese of Huron. So the Diocese of Huron is a pretty large geographic diocese. It goes from Windsor, Ontario in the west, includes Peely Island, goes all the way over to Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, Brantford. It does not include, doesn't include Guelph. Goes all the way up to Tobermory. You go down to Lake Erie and Turkey Point. So it's a fairly broad diocese. I serve up in the Deanery of the Saugeenes, which is the north part of our diocese. And I'm in the northeastern corner, which is the town of the Blue Mountains. Right across the barrier from me, if you continue to go west on Georgian Bay, is Collingwood, and that's the Diocese of Toronto. When I need to get called down to London, it is a 3 to 3.5 hour drive. And I recognize for all of the lay leaders that were in my neck of the woods in the diocese, they were never, ever going to drive to either Toronto or to London to go to school. Guess how many deacons we have up in the Saugeenes? We've never had one. No one has ever been trained. We have no examples of what diaconal ministry is. We do have lay readers, and they used to bring people up to train them, but they hadn't done training in 12 years. So there were no leaders. So I actually went to our now retired primate, Linda Nichols, who was the Bishop of Huron, and said, Bishop, can I start a satellite expression of learning? And in a very similar way than my previous bishop, Bishop Bob Bennett, who said that Port Franks was kind of a waste of my time, she said, Huron is a fantastic school, just send them to Huron. And I said, but Bishop, these students will never ever drive to London. It's just not possible. So I'm always a pain in the butt. I started hiring Huron professors on the side to bring them up to teach courses on the weekend. And the deal was we would feed them, we would put them up for a bed and breakfast, and they would spend an entire day teaching students based on what the topics that they needed. This is a picture of the very first cohort of students that I had in 2017. Some folks are from the Diocese of Huron, so you know Laura Wollman. Yeah. She's been at it for a while. Laura is just past her ACPO and is going to the Diocese of Capel to do her first significant ministry internship coming up in October. Very proud of Laura. But we've got Norma. After taking courses, realized she loved parish administration. She's the primary warden of her church. She's doing a really great job of it. Carol McCurdy has gone on to be a priest for specialized ministry. Do you have locally raised priests here, Ari?
No, we don't throw out priests in the skies.
Throw up?
That's what it's called, that's what Bishop is called.
Oh, goodness, I have a conversation topic for today. Since you may not know, a locally raised priest is a priest that generally doesn't go to a seminary for a Master's of Divinity experience. They are raised up to serve in a geographic region that they're usually from. So you find a place where there is no one to serve in ministry, and you equip a member of that community for sacramental ministry, to be a priest. They generally, across Canada, and there's different slight variations, they are generally not the rector of the parish. They will be an assisting priest. But if they were not there, there would be no sacramental ministry on a Sunday. They are the godsend for the life of the church right now, especially in rural areas. So yeah, I have to have that conversation with them. Youth pastor from the Lutheran Church who went on to be a lay minister, warden, treasurer, youth pastor, treasurer. They are all doing something in ministry now. Before their courses, they didn't know how much they loved it. And so we unlocked their gifts, and I'm thankful for it, because without them, there would be, I know, 2 churches that would already be closed. So it was an experiment that really started to explode. Now, I started off with this cohort of students, and then when the pandemic came, it was game over. They hadn't all finished their courses to graduate, and everything shut down. And it was in that moment, and it only took us about 5 minutes to say, we have a new barrier. The barrier of geography we have to overcome. We need to move completely virtual. And when we did that, you'll see where the story takes you in a moment. But in essence, what is the LTH program? The LTH program is a pre-degree program. So it is on equivalent with a college level diploma below a BA. Of course, we progress in the degree programs with a BA, a Master's of Theological Studies, or a Master's of Divinity. Those are both practical degrees. They're not research degrees. So they're slightly higher than a BA. If someone takes an MA, that's a research degree, that's higher, that's slightly higher than an MTS or an MDiv, and then a PhD is above that. So this is an entry-level degree, a diploma. It's not a degree. It consists of 16 credits, and when we designed the program, we designed it to be flexible. There are only 6 core courses, and they aren't specific courses. There are courses in subject areas. So if you wanted to graduate with a diploma, you would take 2 courses in biblical studies, 2 courses in church history, and backing up a little bit, that's usually a course in the Old Testament. A course is an intro to the New Testament. A course that talks about the early Christian church, and a course that is focused on Reformation history, especially if you're Anglican. You need to know where we come from. And then 2 courses in systematic theology, and these are courses that are concerned with the nature of God. And so it might be Christ's salvation and Trinity, that's a course we offer, or it might be Anglican theology and identity. But you need to take 6 courses, and the rest are all electives. And the reason why they are all electives is every diocese has a different bishop, and the bishop gives me another grocery list of what he wants his students to take. So we've customized the learning experience based on the needs of the ministry in the diocese. And so at this moment, Bishop William has a list of courses that he would prefer people to take if they're exploring to be lay readers or deacons. God willing, thrown up pizza. I've never heard of that before. Thank you for that.
I had it in writing.
You had it in writing. Well, I will say, if it weren't for those thrown up priests in the diocese of Brandon, he wouldn't have had a diocese. What's a normal course look like? Well, recognizing that people work 9 to 5, or they have families, or they're like most of you in this room. You wear like 6 different hats in your church, right? Where are you? Especially you. 6, 7, 8 hats. And so the courses are designed to be accessible and achievable. So they are usually only 16 hours in length. which means that you have two formats. Either you will have 2 hours a week on a Tuesday or a Thursday, and it would be 8 weeks in a row. 2 hours of instructor time per week. Or you might have a condensed course, which we offer on Saturdays or sometimes on a Wednesday, and it will be maybe 2 or 3 Saturdays in a row. You're going from 10 o'clock to 3. The whole point is that you can live a normal life and still tune into these courses. All of the courses have an evaluative component because we need to be able to provide that element of testamer to a bishop or to a credentialing agency to say that Colleen taken this course, she's shown evidence of her knowledge produced in this work, and if she wanted to continue on, she could apply that credit into a degree program. We'll talk about that in a second. It's also an opportunity, every single course that we offer will say, the so what? How are you going to use what you learn to apply it to your practice of ministry? So you'll find that there's a lot of reflection papers, there's a lot of go and do this in your congregation. And hopefully when you do that, you're sowing seeds for other people who are exploring their vocations. Any questions? You can stop me at any time, please. None? None online?
Nope.
So it's a stepping stone approach to theological education. Do you know Francis Stewart from the Diocese of Brandon is a deacon and a strong Black woman who, for most of her life, was told that there was never an opportunity for her to go to school. And she had a very busy family. She had an economic climate where she worked really hard to achieve all the goals in life, but there was also always something nagging at her, that she aspired to do something else, but it was always someone else that was the chosen person to be picked for that. When Bishop William opened up the Brandon Theology Series, which was through her program, a satellite campus in the Diocese of Brandon, she was one of her students. And was it ever a joyful day when we had at St. Matthew's Cathedral members of her congregation, her proud husband, and she received an academic hood. She was the first person in her family to receive an academic hood. And the beautiful thing for Anglicans is every time she celebrates morning or evening prayer or matins, she will wear that hood as part of her uniform. It is her identity and her credentials showing that she has experienced a foundation in theological education. And she is one of the biggest sweethearts ever. Courses that are taken within the LTH program. I had to fight with the Senate of the University of Western Ontario for a little while to get this to happen. Our courses are not under the umbrella of degree courses at Huron or the University of Western Ontario, which we're affiliated with. But we have an advanced standing agreement where students that take credits in the LTH program can transfer those credits into a Master of Theological Studies degree, which is usually a 2-year degree, or the Master of Divinity. They're not equivalent, it's not 1-for-1, but 3 LTH courses can then be one elective of those programs. Question?
I have a question from Marjorie. It is, how many credits versus years are those programs if the LTH is 16 credits?
Sure. Hi, Marjorie. Thanks for your question. Say you took two classes Tuesday night and Thursday nights, and you took them throughout the whole year. If you were committed to taking 2 courses at a time in the evenings, you could finish the whole LTH program, 16 credits, within 2 years. We've had someone do it in a year and a half. That person's very keen. Most of our students are probably working away and doing their jobs and being a grandparent and serving 6 hats in their congregation, so it might be 3 years. And then it depends if they want to transfer to any of the other degree programs. So, does that answer Marjorie's question?
I think so. I don't know. Not how many years is the LTH?
Not how many years.
How many credits are the other?
16 credits. 16 courses. And
Reader, but for English word.
no,
Nothing word.
well, we'll get to that in a moment. And that's different by diocese too. And if anyone has taken any other education, this was another thing that I found. All across the country were people who had signed up for certificate programs from different schools where they didn't have enough students to run the program. And then it might be Thornlow. Actually, I won't pick on schools. There'll be other schools. And then they're like, I couldn't get my certificate. And I would say, great. We've negotiated that I can bring up to 8 credits from another institution and give them credit for their work, regardless of how many years ago they took it. And so I have people that went to university, they're like, it was 20 years ago. But you take theology? I did. I'll give you credit for that. And so that, again, has removed another barrier. People thought, man, I can't do this. I'll never graduate. More people are graduating through our program than other programs. Lisa, then.
Yeah, so I actually have a certificate.
Perfect.
So those 10 credits,
I could take up to 8.
I'll take.
I would look and make sure that I have comparable courses that are offered in our program. But in theory, up to 8 courses can be transferred. So in theory, you could be halfway completed a licenseship theology.
And then work and life experience. You got to that point yet?
That's trickier because I have a certain standard that I have to maintain for the Senate of Western. What I will say is we're in an in-between area. Anyone here take EFM courses? Some of you. That's Education for Ministry. It's a really awesome program. They tend not to do they don't do evaluative components in their work. You don't get a grade for EFM. You do get a certificate when you complete it. So I'm actually sitting down in the upcoming month with a leadership team of EFM to see about having advanced standing and applying some credits for that program. Life experience is a little different because I can't match it to is that a church history part 1 course? But thanks for your question. And then Kyle.
Oh yeah, they're asking how many credits is the Master's of Divinity degree?
Okay. The Master's of Divinity degree is usually taking 5 courses a term, full-time. You can take it part-time too. I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. But 5 courses a term, and you have 2 terms a year. So the fall term, winter term, could take courses in summer. It's 10 classes that you take for 3 years. So it's 30 classes altogether. And that's if you're taking a full class. Sometimes there's like half credits. So it's a lot more, it's a lot longer. And MDiv usually takes you 3 years full time.
And it qualifies you to become a priest.
It might qualify you to be a priest. Let's actually do a little differentiation here. The process for ordination is in Indigenous explanations, they will talk about 2 canoes traveling side by side. I'm from Northern Ontario, so I say 2 skis. We need 2 skis to stand, right? 1 ski, 1 track is the theological foundations that you need, the knowledge, the wisdom, and experience to have a testamer, to have an institution say, Jim, we feel that you have the confidence and credentials to be a practitioner in this area. The other ski is the discernment process. We don't do discernment by ourselves. It's a 3-way relationship. It's a relationship between us and God and the rest of the church. We can't discern by ourselves. Some people spend an awful lot of time saying, oh my goodness, I'm ready to go. And they show up at the bishop's office saying, I'm ready to go. And the bishop goes, who are you? Who's your congregation? Who do you serve? How do others see the work of God in your life? Discernment takes some time. And we call that whole process postulancy. There's a step process when someone applies thinking they would like to be ordained. They're an applicant. And then the diocese or the bishop will say, well, we got to get to know you. And it's a process of having letters that come from your priest, letters that come from your congregation, and then they have learning support groups. It takes a while. It usually then takes a weekend of a spiritual assessment that we often call APO. Many candidates for ministry are trained in a secular institutional setting, and we call that clinical pastoral education. And so all of that is part of the discernment process. And when you start, you're an applicant. When the diocese says you are officially, I'll use the term of Ontario, you're on probation. You guys have that term. You're a learning student. They would call you a postulant. And when you go a little bit farther along and the bishop says, I'm going to ordain you, you're given the status of an ordinand. And you'll be, God willing, the people consenting. But it's two tracks that go side by side. And sometimes the theological education will go real quick, but you're still waiting for the discernment part. Or vice versa, sometimes you're really well known, and they would say, we know you're a deacon. You look like a deacon, you act like a deacon, you smell like a deacon, you're a deacon. But as a deacon, you need your toolkit, and you need these courses to be ready for ministry. Question?
I'm sorry, Ken, you may have said, but I didn't jot it down. How many credits does the Master of Theological Studies?
For the Master of Theological Studies, it's usually 30 full credits, 30 full courses.
I think he's asking me what about
Sorry, that's the MDiv. For the Master of Theological Studies, it's a 2-year degree, full-time, and I should talk about part-time in a second. So it'd be 20 courses. Now, Huron pivoted during the pandemic too, meaning we realized that after the pandemic, people wouldn't be getting up and moving to London, Ontario, because maybe they live in Saskatchewan or Nova Scotia or Quebec or Whitehorse, Yukon. So now we have students that are contextual students where they are studying in their own local home, community, and province, and they tune in. They are part of a virtual classroom. And so whenever there's students that are in these 2 degree programs, everyone's got a laptop, and everyone's online connected together, whether they're in the room or across the country. We have some people, put your hands up if you've been a Huron student in this classroom. So if you're curious, ask those who put their hands up about that experience. And that's relatively new just since the pandemic. This is one of the exciting things. And part of me being here with you is for me to have time with Bishop William. We are, when you have virtual classes, you can bring the best of the professors to students wherever they are. But remember, 2 tracks for ministry. If you are being raised up, you have to do discernment and mentorship at the local level. And so we're just in process of creating a practical element for the LTH program where students in their own diocese will be assigned mentors, have opportunities to get together with like-minded students, and to make sure that they are practicing their ministry skills as often as they can. In my parish, I'm training 2 deacons. I have 2 diaconal postulates. Every single Sunday, they are vested in their uniform. They are serving in diaconal ministry. They are being seen as a symbol and training for the congregation to pray for and to support. By the time they are deacons, they will have practical habits. They will know how to set the table. They will know how to proclaim the gospel. They will be ready to go anywhere God calls them because they have been training and doing this for a number of years. So as students are taking their courses, we're hoping to have them in ministry settings. Maybe it's their own congregation, but it will be with a mentor that knows what they're doing, check in with them, offer spiritual guidance and practical help. So we're going to be creating a network in each of the dioceses that has a field education component. So in the spring, coming up 2026, Fredericton, Huron, Ontario, and maybe Nova Scotia and PEI are going to launch our field placement experiment. And we'll see where that goes. Questions?
So those 2-3 credits, do they go against the 16?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. And it will be different depending on what you do. I will be teaching a course that's coming up this fall that's called The Heart of the Deacon. And I'm more of a facilitator in the course because the course will largely be taught by 6 different deacons sharing their various ministry experiences. And we'll have Dr. Eileen Scully from the National Church to come and share with the Anglican Church of Canada believes about the theology of diaconate as well. So it's going to be really interesting.
Ray, can you say a little bit about the difference between the vocation, the deacon, and the transition?
That's a really good question. The diaconate is not quite the same across the whole Anglican landscape in Canada. Different places have had traditions of having deacons or not. There have been different waves of the church reclaiming the biblical diaconate. So if you ever want to know about the biblical diaconate, dig into your Bible, read through the book of Acts, and you'll hear of different leaders doing ministry roles. Often a deacon acts as a bridge between the worshiping Christian community and the wider neighborhood. And they are raised up from the congregation to serve the neighborhood, to serve the orphans, the widows, those who are sick, to connect the worshiping congregation to them. But they also play a prophetic role. They're supposed to go and listen to the needs of the community, to remind the worshiping church where they need to serve, and to be the presence of Christ in their midst. The early church had deacons that came and went. In today's context, there are deacons or permanent deacons. And these are people called to the ordered ministry of a deacon. They're called to a service of a ministry of outreach and service. They're called to proclaim the gospel, but they're not called to be sacramental leaders, to celebrate the Eucharist. They are not primarily called to preach, although sometimes they need to, because they are proclaiming the needs of the gospel. And they are called to be the celebrant or officiant of worship services. They serve alongside in a different role than the clergy. They do not report to priests. They report directly to a bishop. A deacon is serving a different role in this. And there's been so much confusion behind this because we also have deacons who are priests and are bishops. I am a deacon. Anyone who is ordained a priest is first ordained a deacon. And that goes back to there was a time where it took a lot longer to become a priest. And you spent your first years of ministry learning and serving in outreach. That was when we had the luxury of money and time. Now, if someone is a transitional deacon, they're going to ultimately serve as a priest. They may serve only for 6 months as a deacon. So we kind of we watered it down, de-emphasized the meeting. And the whole point was so that every priest would know what it means to be a table server. To wait on the needs of those in the neighborhood and the community so they wouldn't get above themselves. We've lost that. And bishops are also priests. So they have the fullness of 3 orders: deacons, then priests, and bishops are called to be administrators and teachers and pastors to pastors. Good question. Any other? Hand up if you've got a deacon in your parish. Oh, you do?
Yeah, Paul, yeah. He just became a deacon
Just
a little while ago.
Yes.
Oh, deacon in Kitchener.
I know that you can. I never wanted to say, if I were a bishop, because God help me if that's the case, pray for bishops. But I'm almost to the point where I believe that every single congregation should have a deacon, because they serve in a role that is unique to everything else. And deacons do not take away from the baptized of every other member of the congregation, but they are a sign and a symbol of ministry on behalf. And it is a very sacred order. So, we are a virtual learning community. Our instructors are very diverse and can now tune in from across the country. As Father Matt Kubis, when he was in the Diocese of Brandon, and we actually equipped at St. Matthew's Cathedral a teaching classroom in the basement. So it meant that students from Brandon could come from the rural communities, drive in and actually see people. And they were also connected with another 20 students across the country. It was marvelous. Now, careful what you pray for, because sometimes you might get it. I never in my wildest dreams thought that my 12 students would turn into 450 students representing every single Anglican diocese and territory across the country. That is the nature of the LTH program. And that's why I think Bishop Williams says I'm one of the busiest people he's ever met, because I have to keep track of all those students. That's a blessing. And it means that now we are enabling more lay leaders or future ordinands than any other theological school in Canada. It's not a competition. I hope other schools can remove barriers in the same way that we're trying to do. So I also have a great privilege. I get to handpick the instructors in the program. We will only have instructors in the program if they're passionate about what they're teaching and if they care about ministry. I'm not going to poo-poo seminaries, but sometimes in a theological school you have someone who teaches the theory of something, but they aren't overly interested in practice. And they may be a world expert on it. But it's one thing to teach what it means to be, baptized in church. It's another thing to be the person that's constantly baptizing people into the community. All of our instructors are ministry practitioners, and some of them are some of the most interesting people in the country. We're going to have Archbishop Linda, now that she's retired as primate, back teaching. She's going to be teaching starting in September. And she will be teaching the course that she designed as our resident expert in the country. Archbishop Linda is one of the few people that the Pope would call up for a chat before he passed away, God bless his soul. Right? That is pretty unique. So she will be teaching a course called our Anglican Tree, the Anglican Communion, and our Ecumenical Relationships. That will be starting in September. Ever take that course? Yeah.
Well, she didn't call it that then.
Oh, it was under a different name. And then Bishop William, he shows up from time to time. We keep him on retainer. But we also have other fantastic instructors, and the list continues to grow. Father Daniel Graves is a historian and a priest in the Diocese of Toronto. Murray Watson used to be a Roman Catholic priest and now serves as a very faithful Roman Catholic layperson, and he is a teacher to Roman Catholic School Board teachers. He also has deep ties with Jerusalem. Just recently, I was trying to sit down to connect with the course, and he was in Israel and being smuggled out of the country. Of course, Murray would be the person that would be in a Roman Catholic convent in the middle of that sort of thing. He's deeply loved and loves to see the relationships between Christians, Muslims, and Jews working closer together. And so he often teaches us the appreciation of Jesus, the Jewishness of Jesus and his verses. Bishop Todd Townsend, before being the Bishop of Huron, was the Dean of Theology at Huron. He is a homiletics professor, and I'm not sure if you're ever looking for future people here, but he likes to come for a visit every now and then. And then Lisa Wong, Mother Lisa, is an Anglo-Catholic priest. She teaches at Trinity College and has a deep love for the patristics period, the Christian desert mothers, and anything having to do with Anglican history and ecclesiology. She loves it. And so we will be hoping to have Mother Lisa teaching the course soon. Oh, Ross. Have you guys met Ross?
Yeah.
Archdeacon Ross. Her indigenous name means she who shakes the trees or branches or something like that. And that's Ross. You know Ross. Holy cow, she's stirring things up. She serves as the Archdeacon for Indigenous Reconciliation and Relationships in the Diocese of Huron. She also serves as our National Indigenous Archbishop's right-hand person. And wherever you see our National Indigenous Archbishop, you'll see Ross there. Actually, I think she's in Brazil, right now at an Anglican Theological Conference. She gets around. She teaches courses like The Good Mind and the Good Way, Haudenosaunee Perspectives of Peace and Relationship. She also teaches courses that talk about the history of Indigenous Anglicans and how they've organized themselves, how we have the emerging Indigenous church. She's fascinating. Roz's mom is one of the last, it seems, female clanchitas of the Oneida, yeah. And so her mom, Dr. Elm, is a very respected scholar in the field and has been doing a lot of Indigenous English translations over the years. She's a real gift. And then the courses that we offer are a reflection of a full seminary experience. They're in bite-sized modules and they're practical for ministry. So everything, as I just shared, the good news, the good mind, Indigenous spirituality, to something like Mother Lisa teaching the wisdom of the ancients, patristic theology. You'll see the practice of pastoral care, Father Matt Kuvis, who is chaplain to like 1 million organizations in his community, lives it, teaches it, loves to raise up other pastoral caregivers in town. So just a little snapshot of our courses. How are we doing the time?
2:18.
Okay, so I got 10. Okay, awesome. The other thing that I'm excited about is, you know me, I love relationships. I didn't stop just at putting together a program with Huron. We have been connecting with anywhere that lay leaders are being raised up. And one of the greatest programs happening in our province, which is through Bishop Susan Bell in the Diocese of Niagara and the Niagara School for Missional Leadership. When we put our heads together, we decided that we would love for all courses in the Niagara School for Missional Leadership to be accredited through Huron's Licentiate in Theology program. So, as of, when did we do this? 2014, I want to say. We have partnered with the Niagara School for Missional Leadership. If you Google that, or just type in www.nsml.ca, it'll take you to the website. It's a whole secondary buffet of courses where every single course focuses on what it means to be an enabled laity serving in the world, proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ. Beautiful courses, beautiful courses. Their mission is to train effective missional leaders to respond to the needs of God's world by being a gospel-focused learning community. And they usually offer about 3 courses all at once. So in addition to the LTH courses usually having 3 or 4 being offered at any given time, the Niagara School also has 3 or 4 courses happening.
They're all virtual as well?
They are virtual as well. Sometimes they will try to do things in person. Yeah. And you guys are just close enough that it works. It doesn't work for all students. And sometimes they really like to have courses where you're doing like a small residential, like what you're doing here. The next thing, which was the final barrier to unlock. So there was the barrier of geography, the barrier of having students actually be able to access the courses by giving credit from their previous experience or removing prerequisites. The last thing was sometimes school's expensive. Sometimes. This is 27 years of university courses. I've just paid and paid and paid. I wouldn't be here today for good people who helped invest in me and helped me pay off my debts and helped support me financially. So one of the first things I did is I said, how do we try to find a different way of paying for students to go to school? The solution that we came up with is partner with different organizations to pay for the costs of the instructors so that the tuition can be free. The first place where we did this, and we were delighted to do it, we partnered with the Anglican Council of the North and the Anglican Foundation of Canada. And together, those 2 organizations paid an amount of money to the program, which meant that I could offer 10 courses and pay for the instructors for free. And then turn around to every student who's a member of the diocese or territory of the Council of the North and say your tuition is free. When we switched from going from normally you have to pay $350 a course for credit or $175 to audit, when I switched from having to pay $350 to it being free, we went from about 7 students to about 70 students in a matter of just a few months. And people were coming out of the woodwork all over the place. The benefit for the church is if only special people who have certain circumstances and the money to afford it are able to go to school, it means you only have a small number of leaders. If anyone can go to school, suddenly there's no such thing as wasted education. Not everyone's going to go on to be a priest, but they will go on to be inspired and serve in all sorts of different roles in the ministry. And we've also unlocked a whole new group of licensed lay readers, deacons, and priests, which is going on. Question.
Marjorie asks, is the Niagara School denomination-based, Anglican or other?
It is Anglican, yes. So the Niagara School for Missional Leadership is an Anglican diocesan school. Good question. The next stage was, well, how do we do this with other dioceses? Now, some dioceses are a little bit more affluent than others. We're blessed to be in some fairly populated areas. I'm in Huron, you're in Ontario, we're between Toronto. There's a little bit more resources. So what we've started to do, and we did it last year, and we're formalizing it, was having a subscription service where a diocese pays a certain amount to unlock free tuition for all the students. It is our intention to have it unlocked for the Diocese of Ontario again this year. And when we did that, we went from half a dozen students in Ontario to I think there was 27 or 8 that were registered last year. So if you're curious about lifelong learning as a licensed lay reader, sign up for a course on preaching, or learn more about biblical studies, or dip deeper into your Anglican heritage with a church history course. They will all be made available to you. So we're hoping to have the subscriptions unlocked for Huron and Ontario, because we've got students from here. Any online that's from other dioceses?
I'm not sure.
Have them shout it out if they're from another
If
diocese.
anybody's from another one, speak up.
Oh, 5 minutes, okay. Okay, we're almost there. So I'm also having a lot of bishops starting to participate in the program, and they're recommending courses that they feel work best for their local context. And that's really helpful because ministry in the East Coast of Canada is very different than ministry here in Ontario, and as you can imagine, incredibly different from ministry. We've also partnered with a number of schools. You will often see us host courses with Renison College, which is at the University of Waterloo, or Canterbury College, which is at the University of Windsor. Any of the students that are in the Bishop Tom Corsten School for Ministry, that's the training school for Moosonee, they have free tuition in all of our courses. And we're also just in the process of having Indigenous spirituality courses offered through the Henry Budd College, which is in the Diocese of Brandon, Manitoba. And of course, the Niagara School for Missional Leadership. Okay, this may be of interest to you. Not all of our students in our program are trying to take 16 courses to complete a diploma. Although I'd say, they usually submit their courses and then they're like, oh, I need more. Give me another hit from that course. And sometimes they finish. But we have 3 micro-credentials. In many dioceses, we put together a grouping of courses to train wardens and treasurers and parish administrators. And so in the spring, after vestries happen, we have 3 Saturday courses. Could someone put the door for a moment?
Are you saying this as well?
Of course. Yeah, don't scribble. Thank you so much. These ones are usually hosted over 3 Saturdays over 3 months. So it'll be the first Saturday of the month. We did this, we just wrapped up these 3 courses just a couple months ago. One's on Parish Administration 101, and it goes through all the canons. What are the things you need to know? So if you're a warden or a treasurer or an administrator, so you're never going to get in trouble. Right? That's really important. Do you know how things work? If you know how things work, you'll never find yourself in trouble. The second one is to recognize that ministry is all about, as we talked about 2 days ago, it's about relationships. And so if you don't know how to invest in your relationships, you probably won't have a thriving ministry. And then lastly, every single person who is a warden or a treasurer or a parish administrator, they need to recognize it's not a job. It's not a chore. You are a spiritual leader, and you need to find ways of challenging yourself, feeding yourself, and equipping yourself. And sometimes serving as a warden or another role may be the first step towards being a licensed lay reader, or a deacon, or a chief priest, or a pastoral caregiver. So those courses are offered every single year. Then these next two certificates are a grouping of credits that bishops in Canada have more or less mutually agreed upon to be, as we said before, the testamer, the standard of education that you would need to be in these two leadership roles. For licensed lay readers, we have a 5 full credit certificate. So you would take the courses and write the evaluations. And they are in the areas of courses that equip you to do your job. And those are courses in the following areas. An introduction to the Bible. It's usually the Gospels of Jesus. Because that's your heavy lifting, as you know today, right? Theology, which is usually Anglican identity and theology. What does it mean to be an Anglican? Because you are, as you are preachers. What's your history? Do you know make sure that we don't forget our identity, our story, what it means to be a church that's both Catholic and Reformed. What does that mean? And so the church history course, Bishop William teaches an amazing course. Do you know all of the liturgical roles of a licensed lay reader? And some people have never taken a course. Where does my ministry start and another person's end? If I'm at a Eucharist service, what am I allowed to do? What makes my role different than a deacon? All of that's in the liturgy courses, and of course, we have a great selection of preaching courses. You'll notice that they are different in their practice of ministry, where licensed lay readers are usually a ministry of proclamation. The diaconal ministry is usually more of an emphasis, not that deacons don't proclaim, but it's usually on service. So in addition to the courses you take in the certificate for lay readers, you would have an understanding of the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. A little bit deeper education there in terms of engaging with the Bible. You would have theology that probably focuses on your Anglican identity, but it might be even more refined than that. What does it mean to be a deacon in the ministry of the Anglican Church in Canada? And that's the new course that I'm about to launch in the fall. Your church history, your liturgy, but also deacons serve alongside lay leaders and priests with pastoral care. They do need to preach from time to time because they need to bring the prophetic needs of the community into the worshiping congregation. And deacons need to know their spiritual identity. They need to be mentored and fostered as an ordered minister of the life of the church. Any questions, please? Yes.
2 resources that I think I haven't heard. One is the international
Sure.
instructors.
Yeah.
And the other is the Sisters of St. John of Mark.
Okay. Well, we have their Episcopal visitor with Archbishop Linda Nichols teaching the program. We haven't had any of the Sisters of St. John the Divine in a formal sense. A lot of our students go to them for retreats and for spiritual direction. So they are our go-to. They are a beautiful resource. And internationally, we're going to have Dr. Paul Etty, who travels with Archbishop Marinus Bisotto, who's the Bishop of Amazonia and the Primate of Brazil. Her theologian will be teaching one of his first courses in our program coming up, and we're going to have our first Brazilian students join him. So we've been, this has come a long way from 12 people up in the Saguines a few years ago. Bishop, okay. And almost there. Just a little, these were examples of the parish administration leadership certificates courses that we offered.
Who's replacing Tanya?
No one is. I'm keeping time until I can't anymore. Yeah.
Well, not a lot of it.
Well, she's another person that where she needs a whole hat wrapped for her heads. Yeah. This was an example of a course that we offered through Canterbury College, virtual, but I would have students register through that institution. And the principal of the college was doing a course on contemplative prayer. This was so popular, I'm having it back probably soon. And she would love to teach it again. We had to have the class for the students. This will be offered again soon. But here are some of the instructors. We're going to have a course on preaching the Psalms. So a biblical exploration of the Psalms, understanding the themes of lament, celebration, the themes of exile. How do you preach all of those themes? Murray Watson is doing an introduction to the Old Testament that helps to recognize, as we were talking about in our preaching, the Old Testament is made up of so many different genres. And if you understand it in a very literal sense, you are not reading it as Jewish people have ever read it. So he's going to be teaching that course coming up. Father Matt Kubis is teaching a course on Christian rights around sickness, death, and dying. And of course, he spends a lot of his time in hospices and retirement homes. So a really important course. If you are at all doing that ministry, please check it out. I'm going to be facilitating a course on deacons. We've got a course that Father Daniel Graves is going to be launching on Thursdays in September called The Making of Anglicanism, and it's going to look at the period from the Caroline Divines up to the Victorians. So what does it mean? How are we formed? How are we baked in the oven to come out as Anglicans? And then Archbishop Linda is going to be teaching her Anglican Family Tree course coming up on Tuesdays, starting in September. So a little sneak peek. These courses are going to be found on our website. So this will all close with this. Oh, I think I just closed something. How do you find us? Well, if you're in Google, just type in Huron lifelong learning. When you do that, it'll take you to the Theology Learning page. And I'll say two things. I have the number one email that I get from our students is, when is the course going live? When can I register? So if this is at all of interest to you and you're on Facebook, join our Facebook page because we always draw links. And then, yeah, there's Gordon. This is one of your newest priests. You just scooped him from the Diocese of Huron. Dr. Gordon Naitler with his Book of Common Prayer course. You will see the course come online on the page, and you'll be able to access the course syllabus so you can check out what are we going to learn. And then when the registration is open, there'll be a Register Now button, which will allow you to register. And assuming that we have our diocesan subscription activated, there'll be an option for I'm a Diocese of Ontario student. The course is free. But you need to, the courses are capped. So what I will give you a sneak preview, because you guys have been so good to me, in probably the first or second week of August, the registration will go online. So I'm hoping to have things in the next couple weeks, all the posters up for upcoming courses. Wait till August, and then maybe I'll put a message through to Alice and give you guys a good head start. Sure. And then you'll see all the courses that are offered there, and you'll see what the past courses are. And soon you're going to see profiles of our students across the country that tell what inspired them as they were exploring their vocational journey, how this program helped enable them, and where they are serving today. And so you'll get to see people popping up across the country. I think I'm out of time, but any final questions? I am out of time.
Are these sort of revolving, like I would be able to start till January?
This is the beauty of the program. when we set it up. We set it up so that I could be the program director and the registrar. So all you need to do to be a student in the LTH program is to know me. That's it. So send me an email.
Stay healthy.
And as students are discerning their call along the way, often they just go Zoom meeting and say, where am I? How does this all fit together? And I usually point them in the directions where they have those answers. So and I love to meet.
Why the maximum? Is it technical?
The maximum is that in a conversation, we want to be able to go around the room. There's 35 of you here, I think, in the moment. So if we were to just kind of, it means that a professor can go through the room and say, what do you think about this? I haven't heard from you in a little while, right? If it gets a little bit larger than that, you lose the family learning environment, and there's not enough time for everyone to chit chat.
And it's the mark.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Only if you take it for credit.
Yes, you can also take the courses and audit them. And that's if you just want the experience and you don't want to do any papers. Some people are lifelong learners and they want to be part of the lecture. They don't want to write a paper at the end of it. You are welcome to do that. And the joy with the subscription service, it's free on either way. And so some of our students will say, I'm going to be an auditor. And then at the very end, they're like, yeah, can I write the paper? Let's see if I can do it. And then they do. And then they're one step further along to a credential if they want. Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, in terms of what category each course belongs in, academic studies, just history,
And I think it was you that put in a request to have that listed, yeah. So what you will see on the website, it doesn't say this now, but if you went into the syllabus, it tells you what the course code is and what area it is. Slow down. So, Dr. Mike Michelin, he's one of your priests.
Yeah.
Right? Are you in his congregation?
No, it wasn't again, not quite this one.
Yeah. So with this course, you will see right in the course code, theological studies is a systematic theology course. So it will always be on the syllabi, but I'm also, because of your recommendation, I'm going to make sure it's on the website too. And then you can see what chair you're studying.
In many, many years, I've written a paper, you have a system.
We do, and it's usually me just having a chat with people. And sometimes a student will send me their first paper and say, I've been writing a paper in 35 years. And I'll say, bounce it to me before you send it to your prof. We'll go over it, and sometimes I can share some rubrics with you. I've never, even for Indigenous students where English isn't their first language, we've been able to have everyone get into the sort of things. Okay, I think that's my time.
Thank you very much, Ray. I can't tell you how thrilled everybody is to be introduced to this. It's the best kept secret ever.
Let's get out.
So we need to decide how we're going to split into groups of groups of three. Two or three. And I would suggest using the carols out in the hallway to finish this together. I leave it to, we're all adults, I leave it to you to sort yourselves into a group where you feel that you can make and receive contributions, and Greg's graciously offered to wander about.
Time for group, isn't it?
And we'll do a break now, and we'll start that at, we'll start that at 3 and end at 4 so that we get a 3. And